Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate your music. Carolyn says there's all kinds of people downstairs. I think they're getting ready for dinner. But what I'm supposed to do first is to see if there's any announcements that people want before we start the service. Nobody? No announcements? Okay, we're ready to go. As you are welcome here. Visitor, friend, or longtime member, you are welcome here. With little children, or your partner, or alone, we joyfully welcome you here. You are welcome here as a believer or doubter, as a joiner or loner. You are welcome here. Feeling a part of us or not, full of energy or not, seeking a vision or a rest, you are welcome to join us as you are. We acknowledge that we are in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish, Nez Perce, Blackfeet, and Anishinaabe people who shared the Helena Valley as hunting grounds. The indigenous story of the Helena Valley began long before the arrival of Europeans. We honor those who walked here before us. We honor the path they have shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We strive for justice and fair relations with their descendants. Georgia is going to do the chalice lighting for us, and in your order of service is what we'll read together. Thus you have prepared the land, drenching its furrows, breaking up its clods, softening it with showers, blessing its yield. You have crowned the year with your bounty and with abundant harvest. The fallow meadows overflow, the valleys are blanketed with flocks. They shout and sing for joy. Psalm 65. And now we're going to have a song from this color hymnal that we don't use very much, so I'm really kind of excited about doing something from it. Number 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness.
I'm going to play it all the way through.
thank you for that song and whoever picked it. When I can't find anything I can do, like there's a situation I don't know what to do, or there's a person I don't know how to pray for them, I do the loving kindness meditation, which is that song. So I really appreciate it. We have a couple of kids. I have a story, and if it's the couple of kids don't want to come up, well, either they do or they don't. I'm going to read it to all of us. And my daughter would be going, Mom, it's such a therapy book. Yeah. So I found this book driving back last weekend from Swan Lake at a little place in Sealy. Whoever picks their books does a great job of picking their books. And I've never bought any there, but I bought 4. I think that might be my addiction, I've decided, is books. So, what do you do? Oh, this book is written by Kobe Yamada and illustrated by Mae Buson. What do you do with a problem? There's a little kid standing here looking at the problem over his head. I don't know how it happened, but one day I had a problem. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. I really didn't like having a problem, but there it was. Why is it here? What does it want? What do you do with the problem, I thought. I wanted to make it go away. I shooed it. I scowled at it. I tried ignoring it, but none of those worked. I started worrying about my problem. What if it swallows me up? And here's a picture because the problem's getting bigger. What if my problem sneaks up and gets me? What if it takes all my things away? And he's standing here kind of protecting his toys. We all have toys. I worried a lot. I worried about what would happen. I worried about what could happen. I worried about this and I worried about that. And now with all that worry, the problem's really getting big and kind of really hanging over him. The more I worried, the bigger my problem got. I wished it would just disappear. I tried everything I could hide from it. I even found ways to disguise myself, but it still found me, and it's even bigger. And the more I avoided my problem, the more I saw it everywhere. I thought about it all the time. I didn't feel good at all. I couldn't take it anymore. This has to stop, I declared. Maybe I was making my problem bigger and scarier than it actually was. After all, my problem hadn't really swallowed me up or attacked me. I realized that I had to face it. So, even though I didn't want to, even though I was really afraid, I got ready and tackled my problem. When I got face to face with it, I discovered something. My problem wasn't what I thought it was. I discovered it had something beautiful inside. Here's a picture of his discovery. My problem held an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to learn and to grow, to be brave, to do something. It showed me that it was important to look closely because some opportunities only come once. So now I see problems differently. I'm not afraid of them anymore because I know their secret. Every problem has an opportunity for something good. You just have to look for it. And then here's the last picture. All right. Children can go if they're going to go, and we'll sing with them. Now it's time for our offering. I'm hoping that that Gemma and Nikki, because they're sitting right in the front and it'll be easy for me, would please pass the plates. But thank you for your gifts today and all the gifts and actions that make this community possible. If you're visiting, please remain our guest. Your presence is your gift to us. Now we can sing together number 25 in the Judy's book. I'm going to call it Judy's book. Open your heart. Thank you for your loving hands, your loving hearts, your loving ways. Thank you for all this you bring into the world each day. And if you ever doubt yourself, remember us who love you well. We know all the gifts you bring into the world each day. So thank you for your loving hands, your loving heart, your loving ways. Thank you for all this you bring into the world each day. And now we're going to do a reading in this hymnal, number 655. And the name of it is Change Alone is Unchanging. I'll read the regular type if you'll read the italics. Whoever wishes to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details.
Knowledge is not intelligence.
In searching for the truth, be ready for the unexpected.
Change alone is unchanging.
The same road goes both up and down.
The beginning of a circle is also its end.
Not I, but the world says it. All is one.
And yet everything comes in season.
Now we're going to have another song. It's on page 11 in the Open Your Heart songbook.
Thank you. This song is actually in our Singing the Living Tradition book. And one night, about 20 years ago in Big Timber, I was baking cookies or something and reading through the Singing the Living Tradition, singing the songs. And I got to that song and I thought, this melody does not fit this song. It just isn't right. You know how you get a feeling something just isn't right? So I fixed that, at least in my mind it's fixed. And I love this poem. It's just, you know, do you hear this? Do you hear, oh my friend, in the place where you stand, through the sky, through the land? Do you hear, in the heights on the plain, in the vale, on the main, in the sun, in the rain? Do you hear? Do you hear? Through the roar, through the rush, through the throng, through Hear a sigh's startling trill in your soul, in your soul. From the place where you stand to the outermost strand, do you hear, oh my friend? Do you hear all the dreams, all the dares, all the thoughts, all the prayers? They are yours, mine and theirs. Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you hear? Do you hear?
Next, we're going to do another reading, also in Singing the Living Tradition. It's number 650. The same as before, I'll read the regular type if you'll read the italicized. Cherish your doubts, for doubt is the attendant of truth.
Doubt is the key to the door of knowledge. It is the servant of discovery.
A belief which may not be questioned binds us to error, for there is incompleteness and imperfection in every belief.
Doubt is the touchstone of truth. It is an acid which eats away the false.
Let no one fear for the truth, that doubt may consume it, for doubt is testing of belief.
The truth stands boldly and unafraid. It is not shaken by the testing.
For truth, if it be truth, arises from testing stronger, more secure.
Those that with silence doubt are filled with fear. Their houses are built on shifting sands.
But those who fear not doubt and know its use are founded on rock.
You shall walk in the light of growing knowledge. The work of their hands shall endure.
Therefore, let us not fear doubt, but let us rejoice in its help.
It is to the wise as a staff to the blind. Doubt is the attendant of truth.
Well, today I'm going to talk about boundaries, and anybody that's prepared to talk knows that you spend a few hours honing it, and it's a good thing I read through it a few times, or we'd be here till about 6, which is highly unusual. But when I was going over it, I said, okay, you need to shorten some things. I usually write talks out, but this one I just did in bullet points because I thought it might slow me down. I still speak too fast sometimes, so I'm hoping not having it written out will slow me down a little bit. So boundaries are everywhere. As we look in this building, we have boundaries, we have walls, there's doors, there's windows. As I walked out of my house tonight, I was really thankful for my windows because box elder bugs are everywhere. But what I like about windows and doors, and I compare this to my office sometimes when I'm talking with people, is that the windows and the doors make this boundary permeable. It's really helpful to not have our walls be made out of concrete or so solid that there's no way to get in and out. Our city has boundaries. If you go far enough towards Walmart, you're going to reach a point where you're not going to be in Helena anymore. And the same with our state. Eventually, you're going to run into North Dakota or Canada. So there's lots of different ways to think about boundaries. What I'm talking about today is more personal boundaries, both with ourselves and with other people. We have physical boundaries. How close do we want to be with people? How far away do you want to keep them? We have emotional and mental boundaries that we need to sometimes set limits about. So most of the time when people think about boundaries, they think about setting boundaries with other people. A limit or a boundary saying what's okay and what's not okay. But I think it's important to remember that we need to have boundaries in ourselves. And a way to think about that is, a different word to use is to have some self-discipline, which I don't know about anybody else, but can be kind of hard to do. What do we do from the inside? Boundaries are often misunderstood. Sometimes people think of them as selfish. If I say no to something, I can't do something, or no to a family member, then I'm being mean and selfish. But the way I think about them, they're really about caring for yourself and other people. And I like to think of them as on a continuum from easy and simple up to critical and really hard. The simple, easy ones are something like, no, I don't want to go for a walk, I want to take a nap. The harder ones is, I believe, are about when there's potential for someone to be hurt. And I often talk about that. I have a big sign in my office that says no hurting, because lots of times people get hurt inside their families. And it's up to parents to set boundaries for people when that's happening. Brene Brown describes boundaries as something that's either okay or not okay. And that's how I steal her definition a lot, because it's so simple. If something is not okay, then something probably needs to be said, even though it can be really hard. Dictionary.com says that a boundary is a limit or a line where one thing ends and something else begins, kind of like our building. But it also goes on to say that it can be a limit to separate acceptable from unacceptable behavior. One pretty simple example, but one that I don't really like too much, but years ago, when you drove down Benton Avenue by Carroll College, the speed limit used to be 35. Well, in someone's wisdom, which is probably really smart, they changed it to 25. And I don't get to pick that, I just have to do it. And that's an example I tell kids when they want to stay up late or they don't want to do their homework. I says, yeah, I still have to drive 25 by Carroll College, even though I don't want to. I actually got a ticket there. So there's consequences when we don't follow the rules. It's really easy to be upset with, okay, I am a therapist and I work a lot with children. So sometimes I speak in kid language, so I'm gonna use the word mean people. It's really easy to be upset at the mean person, somebody that is doing something mean to somebody else. But the people around them, maybe another parent, and sometimes us, we need to speak up. We're culpable too if we don't speak up and say, this thing is not okay. And it's been hard for me to grasp that. I've been spending a lot of time in Denton, Montana. Anybody know where Denton is? 40 miles north of Lewistown. Because my dad's been there for a few months. He's 92. He should not be living in Denton by himself, and we can't talk him out of it. And he's also not a very nice person. And part of why I believe he's not a very nice person is because people didn't set boundaries with him. I don't really know what happened to him as a kid, but I know for decades my mom has not spoke up and said, Bob, that's not okay. Unless he's talking too much. I've probably heard him say, I don't know. I've been to Denton 7 times this summer already, so. He said, Cheryl, I know I'm talking too much, and what your mother would be saying right now is, shut up, Bob. And she probably needed to say that a little bit more often than what she did. The other thing I like to think about, not just in boundaries, but in probably any problem that we're facing. And I don't like the words always and never or every very often, but in this instance I'm going to use the word always. Whatever situation we're facing, whether it's a boundary or anything else, it's always an inside job. Part of what needs to happen needs to come from us inside rather than from outside. So even for my dad, he likes to quote his dad, and he says, there isn't anything you can do about that. My grandpa would say, Bobby, there's anything you can do about that, so why are you worried about it? Put your back into that shovel is the rest of the story. So even for my dad, he said, I don't know how to do what I say I'm doing. And I said, Dad, I don't know what to tell you, because that's your work on the inside. And he looked stunned and said, I guess you're right. I don't think he's figured it out yet, though. A key word that I've been finding well, it's always been one of my favorite words, but it's hard to find balance when you're setting boundaries. We might end up feeling guilty, might be sad, it might bring up, it can be really hard to set boundaries. And finding the balance, like with my dad, he's kind of a butt, and a little bit hard to put up with, but he's 92. I'm not going to not go to Denton and help him, because I think that's the right thing to do. But I've learned in the last few years to speak up more often to him. People aren't taught boundaries oftentimes. Sometimes I like to think parents today are better about that. And then other times I look at a parent, the kids leaving their office and my office, and we just talked about something hard, and kids don't want to be there. And their parents walk out saying, well, tell Cheryl thank you. I'm like, all right. I don't know if they say thank you to their therapist, but it's really, I would not expect that from kids to say thank you to me. Another big problem, I think, that in setting boundaries, not only do we might feel bad about them, but there are people that are just conflict avoiders. I had a man in my office a couple days ago. He said, Cheryl, I'm just a peacemaker, while his wife is kind of running roughshod over the children, and he doesn't want to confront that and talk with her about it. And so the conflict avoiders will put up with too much, and it's not doing the people around them any favors or themselves. I think the setting of boundaries gives us lots of freedom. It helps us to be more free to connect with others. It can help us be more compassionate. It even increases generosity. When we are not feeling consumed and burned out, we can give more than when we don't set that boundary. Here's some examples from various relationships that we have, because boundaries are mostly about relationships. Sometimes in our families, either the family that we're living with right now, or maybe our extended family, my family gets together every once in a while, and we'll be doing my sister and I will be doing something in the kitchen. And I guess she doesn't like how I'm doing it or something, because she'll watch me cook the vegetables or something, and she'll say, well, but don't you want to, put in some chicken soup or something? I said, and I just say, if I wanted to, I would already be doing that. And she kind of backs up. Sometimes parents have to set boundaries with grandparents. If you have grandparents who don't respect your wishes about your kids, like too much sugar or staying up too late, or freedom with technology when you'd rather not have them beyond that all the time. So there's a place for setting boundaries with grandparents. And an area that I'm aware of a lot, because I work so much with kids, is disciplining your children. Control kind of has a bad reputation, but we do need to have some discipline and control over our children. They'll be happier and we'll be happier if we do that. I heard a man say one time that parents should spend the first 6 years of a kid's life getting control and the next 12 giving away. And I think that's a good summary about how to think about discipline, because we do have to give it away. Sometimes people with teenagers who can get a little bit lippy and talk back a lot, and I've heard parents look at their teenager and say, you can't talk to me that way. And what I explain to the parent is, you have just taken your power as a parent and given it to them, instead of saying something where you retain your power. Because lots of teenagers, if you look at them and say, you can't talk to me that way, they're gonna look at you and say, yeah, right. But if you say, I don't like how you're talking to me, and here's what I'm going to do, that retains your power, and it's an example of how to set a boundary with a consequence that you can actually do. Lots of times we need to set boundaries at work. When I worked at Chaudere a long time ago, when I quit working there, I was working about 50 hours a week, and I didn't want to work 50 hours a week. I hear there's people that, I'm in private practice, so I kind of get to set my own limits about what I'm going to do and not do, which has some freedom and some not freedom. But you can have a limit about working on weekends or working after 5, that's another hard thing to do too, because my daughter works at Showdare now, and it seems like she's on call a lot to her boss. We as a group, we can have boundaries. I think most churches, they would say, I don't know the numbers, but too few people do too much of the work. And part of that is because the few people doing so much work don't say no. Things can go undone. That might not be a popular belief, but some things might have to go undone for people to have boundaries and to feel good about what they're doing. I talked to my 31-year-old a couple of weeks ago. He's in Philadelphia. He might be watching now if you found the link. But he is worried about the lack of boundaries politically. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that because you could probably talk for days about that. But he's worried on all sides, not just one side or the other. He's worried about, he's pretty liberal, and he's been really distressed about the reactions to Charlie Kirk's death when people were celebrating it and were happy about it. When I was watching the news this morning, some political show, politicians just lack some kind of internal boundaries to what I call is to just do the right thing. Thank you, Martin Luther King. It's always the right time to do the right thing. When I'm talking to kids, I tell them that that was Anna from Frozen. Because what Anna said is, I just need to do the next right thing. Very similar. But when we are politically, when we see a situation that is just not the right thing, I would wish for us not to participate and not to laugh at the joke or the harmful thing that's happening. So this is the part I tried not to cut from the talk, because I think it's the kind of stuff that, what do we need to be able to have good boundaries? We need to be self-aware. There's a lot of people that, the clinical word is called reflective functioning, but self-awareness, there's 2 pieces to it. Do we know ourselves? Do we know what we think, how we feel, what we want? Could we communicate that if we needed to? So we need some self-awareness. But the other part of that is we need to understand that what we do affects other people. And if you're involved with people who aren't very self-aware and they don't know what they do affects other people, they're not very fun to live with. I'm trying not to pick on my dad, but y'all don't know my dad very well, so I'm gonna pick on him again. But he needs to go, he's planning on going back to Michigan in the middle of October. I talked with him for a couple of weeks about when he wanted to do that, because he can barely dial a phone. And he also is like, I'm writing a paper about lessons I've learned from my parents as they're getting old. And because he just is having such a hard time accepting that he's not in control and that there's limits on him. So I started 2 or 3 weeks before a decision needed to be made about when do you want to go back? It's gonna affect lots of people. And he says, well, I'm just not ready to make that decision. I said, Dad, we've been talking about it for 2 or 3 weeks. David, the man coming from Michigan to drive him back, it needs to fit in with his schedule. I need to give my daughter, Alana, some time to get a cheaper ticket, which was important to him. I need to figure out when I can go to Great Falls and pick David up, take him to Denton. My mom is at home all worried because my dad should not be living at home alone. And there's people in Michigan that need to get that apartment ready where he's going. I said, Dad, all these people are waiting for you to decide. And he just got really mad at me and said, I'm not ready to decide yet. And started yelling at me. My boundary was not to talk to him for a couple days because I don't really let people yell at me without saying something. But he just did not understand that there was consequences to his inability to make a decision. Even though I understood his inability and can accept that, it just really wasn't okay. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. I think that's another misconception that people have about boundaries. If I set a boundary, I'm trying to tell people what to do. Or it's you're doing something to keep people away from you. I don't want you around, so I'm setting a boundary so you'll go away. Boundaries protect our energy and our time. Sometimes it protects our emotions. It protects us from other people and sometimes from ourselves. And so we need to recognize in the boundary, what can we actually do? Like, what is within our power to do? Because a lot of stuff is not within our power, but if it is, then we need to do that. Like the teenager example. I'm not giving my power away to a teenager by saying you can't talk to me that way. With little kids, in my office I have a plain side and a talking side. Sometimes kids get stuck on the plain side, and I'll say it's time to come on over and we're gonna do a little bit of talking with your parents. And they will hem and haw, and I says, well, there's two ways to get here. With your feet touching the ground or not touching the ground. Because I will pick them up and help them. Their parents are in the room, so I can do that. But I'm doing what I can do to control the situation. So here's some tools that will help you set boundaries. And this one is probably my favorite thing to say to people. Well, I did say an inside job was one of my favorite things, but this one's even more important. So my first therapist, I don't even know, 40, 50 years ago, said to me, Cheryl, you've got good guts. Meaning that I knew what I needed to do, and I needed to trust myself. So when you're setting boundaries with people, as long as you're being rigorously honest, and rigorous honesty is a phrase from the big book for AA. As long as you're being rigorously honest, you can trust your guts that what you're about ready to do or say is the right thing. Here's some steps about boundaries. The first one is recognize that one is needed. That's where self-awareness comes in. Notice how you're feeling. I usually feel things in my body first before I even do in my mind or with my emotions. So sometimes I get a clench in my stomach or my chest, and that's when I know that I need to pay attention. I like to suggest that people, after they become aware, to think it through. Sometimes you don't have time to think it through because there's a boundary that needs to be set pretty quickly. I don't always do that, but I usually try to think about it later and think about what I might do if I'm confronted with that situation again. So recognize it, think it through, and then state the boundary as clearly as you can. Brené Brown says boundaries need to be clear and kind. I think they need to be firm and strong, so we need to say them. I listened to a book by Melissa Urban. The name of the book is The Book of Boundaries. And she liked to describe boundaries like the street light, green, yellow, and red. A green boundary is going to be pretty simple. People are going to respect it, not say much. You probably just need to say it. There probably doesn't need to be consequences. A yellow one is you're probably going to have to repeat the boundary 2 or 3 times. This happens a lot with family members because we love and care about people, so we might want to say it more than once. And then there's red ones, and for me the red ones are more about safety or a more serious situation. And the yellow and the red ones might require that sense of consequences, like what are you going to do? Not what are you expecting the other people to do, but what are you going to do if your boundaries are not respected? And then follow through with the consequences. So don't say a consequences unless you're willing to follow through, or something that you can't do. Like, I'm not going to say to my dad, I'm not coming to Denton ever again. I won't do that. So I'm not going to say that. I want to say that, but I'm not saying it because that won't be true. But I can say to my dad, if he keeps talking negatively about my brother and sister, about situations that happened months ago or years ago, if you keep talking about that, like I've heard the story a dozen times, I'm going to go for a walk. I can't do that. I can leave and go for a walk. My dad's been kind of mean to my mom the last few months too, and My daughter looked at my mom, or I think they were talking on the phone, and she looked at my mom. Still gets along really well. She just gets around and putters around the place where they're living. And Alana looked at her and said, "Grandma, you can outrun him. Just go walk away and get away from him if he's being mean." I think we need to be really careful about setting boundaries with toxic people. People that are just they're gonna be hurtful. They're gonna cause someone some pain. And if it's a family member, I wish for people to not totally cut off their family members, but to find a way to set a boundary and have a limit about what's okay and what's not okay without having a total cutoff. Because what happens with family members when there's a total cutoff is that it doesn't last very long, and people tend to go right back into relating in the way that they used to do. So be clear and be kind, be strong, don't be wishy-washy. That's from Brene Brown. I read an article by Christine Carr, and she said there were 3 things to remember when you're setting boundaries. Hurting yourself doesn't ultimately help others. And that's kind of the put your own oxygen mask on before you put on everybody else's. But sometimes I think we get that confused. We think we're supposed to hurt, and we don't really have to. And if we're hurting ourselves, then we're not really helping people. The second thing she says is that you can handle the discomfort that comes from setting boundaries. This book is a chapter in a book, and the book I'm writing about is Comfort is Overrated. I actually did talk about that a few years ago. But what Christine says is our feelings are always true. Our thoughts, though, can be riddled with errors. So we need to be careful about thinking that our thoughts are accurate and right, and that we can handle being uncomfortable. Life is hard. If you're over 4 in my office, I'll say this to you. Life's going to be hard sometimes, and it's always going to change, so let's figure out who's in your life to help you. I don't say that to 3-year-olds, but after you're 4, I want them to know that it's going to be hard sometimes, and that there's people that will help them. And the last thing she said was, you are not responsible for other people's feelings. She said, really, you aren't. You are responsible for yourself and your own emotions and behaviors. Your boundaries may disappoint or frustrate or even anger other people. You can't control this. Other people get to feel how they feel. So a couple of roadblocks to setting good boundaries. One is feeling guilty. Like if I say no to this person, or I tell them how they're talking to me isn't okay, I might feel bad. I'll feel guilty about that. And I probably, unless you made a mistake, that's what I think guilt is. Guilt is when we make a mistake. We need to be sorry and try not to do it again. But if you're feeling like you did make a mistake, but you haven't, then that's unreasonable guilt. I even like to call it shame. So that's a different word. And that won't be helpful in any situation. Doing a lot for other people, like people who just volunteer for everything and do a lot, it's often valued. I was listening to a podcast, I don't know, about a few weeks ago, and there was this couple who had a new grill, I don't remember what kind it was, and somehow on the flyers for the grill, their phone number got listed as a place to call for customer care. And this couple was being praised by the man on the podcast because for 6 months, they answered the customer care questions, sometimes 20 a day. And while they're getting accolades for being so wonderful, I'm going, oh man, there's a need for some boundaries. Yeah. And another roadblock is some cultures really value, especially in families, not having a lot of boundaries, like expecting people can just walk in your house without knocking. Or if so-and-so needs help, everybody drops what they're doing and gives them money or gives them rides. And so there can be a cultural family about not having good boundaries. So these are the 3 takeaways. And I think I'm doing all right with my long talk. The 3 takeaways are, the first one is trust yourself. Pretend I'm standing on a chair. I always tell people this. I saw a man do that once in Great Falls. If there's anything really important, he was standing on a chair. So pretend I'm standing on a chair. Trust yourself. Believe that you know what you know. The other one, the second one, it's okay to say no. I think I heard someone say no is a whole sentence. We can say no to things, and it will be okay. And the last one is one of my favorite lines that I have posted in my office is that you deserve to be treated well. We all deserve to be treated well. And we can treat ourselves and other people better if we have good boundaries. All right, we'll have a minute or so for reflections, and then I'll use the microphone.
And maybe meditation.
I can do that. Any comments or anything anybody want to say? Service?
Thank you, Cheryl, for finding the songs and readings that you selected this time. I think they were really important, and we hadn't had them before, and you did a good job there.
I did the reading, someone else did the songs.
Well, okay. You provided, though.
So over the last month and a half, maybe pushing 2 months now, I've been going through a personal coaching course, and one of the big pieces in there has been on boundary setting and people pleasing and those sorts of behaviors. And one of the takeaways one of the things I really appreciate this topic, because I am a terrible boundary setter and working on that. But one of the things from that course that I've taken away is there's 3 tiers almost of boundaries, which resonated with me when you said like the green, yellow, and red light, based on the severity of the consequence. So you have a boundary without a consequence is a preference. And then you have a boundary that you articulate, there's a consequence, and there's your non-negotiables. So I think that aligns with that red light piece you were talking about. So I just thought it was an interesting framework that kind of builds into what you're talking about. I wanted to share.
Okay. Now we're going to have another song out of this, 10:07.
There's a river flowing in my
Now we will extinguish the chalice and read together what's in our order of service. Thank you, Georgia. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are